April 2025 marks 20 years since I first collected Jessie the Jeep. We first found the Jeep at WHB Jeeps in Scotland, mid-February 2005. The Jeep was released from service at a French Army auction from Toulouse, and was viewable at the Army camp at Muret, prior to the sale. It was lot number 79, on the 27th of January 2000. It was still in the French Army three-tone camouflage when we found it at WHB Jeeps, during a long weekend in Scotland. It needed testing and registering in the UK, and we also wanted it painted olive drab before we collected it, so it was immediately presentable. The work was completed in mid-April 2005, and we set off on the 16th to collect the Jeep. It was a 135-mile trip home, mostly staying on the slower roads for safety. We made a number of stops on the way, both so I could warm up, for food, and for some pictures. We did the 135-mile trip in 4.5 hours including stops. There was then the question of whether the Jeep would fit in the garage, next to my trailer. With 1.5 inches of space each side, it was tight, but fitted. In the days that followed, I printed and cut out stencils and began painting the markings. Since the 1980s, I'd had an interest and connection to the United States Army Air Force, 100th Bombardment Group, so naturally I chose 100th markings for the Jeep. Painting began on the 18th, with the front bumper markings. The hood star and side markings were next, with the hood numbers last, due to some cold, damp weather. By the 24th, the markings were complete, and we went for a drive to get some pictures with the Jeep's new look. We had a run out to Durham, looking for some country lanes that would make a nice backdrop for pictures. 6 days later, we were at our first public event at Wingate Village, for their VE Day celebration. It was one of many VE Day celebrations across the year, with many of the Durham villages gaining lottery grants to hold events. In the middle of 2005, we took the Jeep to Normandy and Brittany, spending just under a week in Normandy, before moving on. It was a great way to visit the D-Day beaches and museums. We ended the 2005 season with a winter drive, having attended 18 events, had multiple rides out, and having clocked up 2,500 miles. It was a great first year of military vehicle ownership. After 2 seasons of looking like all the other Jeeps, I wanted to go a bit different, and began converting the Jeep to a follow-me vehicle. Flying control was painted across the screen and a checkered flag added to start with, and the Jeep received some temporary 9th Air Force markings for an event in May 2008. In August, I managed to pick up a very cheap second canvas, which was painted checkered to help with the Follow Me Jeep impression. This second canvas meant I could keep the original one green, allowing me to swap the Jeep appearance between the standard olive drab and the flying control vehicle. To further enhance the Follow Me appearance, based on some original pictures, I added a light box to the back of the bows, which would illuminate to give instructions to pilots. Almost done, the Jeep with its checkered roof and flag, along with the light box, which was connected to the trailer socket for power. The finishing detail was the Follow Me sign, which slotted onto the top of the light box. It needed to be removable to fit through my garage door. For D-Day 2009, we took the Jeep down to Suffolk, to visit the 493rd Bomb Group Museum for their open weekend. Here's the Jeep driving to the control tower, which is one of many surviving buildings at the airfield. The visit allowed me to get some airfield pictures alongside the restored tower and their flying control caravan. The following month, we took the Jeep to Breeton Aerodrome in Yorkshire. On Sunday, we got the opportunity for a Mustang photoshoot, and my first working weekend, getting some pictures of the Jeep leading the 2 Mustangs to the dispersal area. That propeller looked huge through the oval canvas window of the Jeep roof, but I got some unique pictures. By this time, the winter side panels had also been painted in checkers, though the quick-release doors remained olive drab. At the back end of 2017, I bought some magnetic plastic to make some new markings. 2018 was the 100th anniversary of the formation of the Royal Air Force. I decided to make some RAF markings for the season, to give the Jeep a slightly different look, and something to mark the anniversary. The motorway-grade plastic was meant to stay on up to 80 miles per hour, so I guessed it was probably okay for the Jeep. It is seen here at Breeton in May 2018, with a Taylorcraft Oyster climbing away in the background. A view from the driver's seat at Beamish. It was odd looking out over a roundel, rather than a star. By 2019, the Jeep was back in American markings again, and is seen here at the former RAF Sandtoft, with a Piper L4 Grasshopper behind it. Later in 2019, some of the leftover plastic was used to make some ordnance depot markings. This was for a publicity photoshoot for a former local ordnance depot. The remaining plastic was used to make some Red Cross markings, to give the Jeep another look. This picture was taken in March 2020, just days before the country was closed down for COVID. This shot was taken later in the year, once we were allowed back out of lockdown. The lockdown resulted in all of our 2020 events being cancelled. That included the 75th anniversary of VE Day. As a result, I decided to set up our own VE Day display in the front garden. This time-lapse shows the setup, followed by a couple of pictures of the completed display.
Yesterday morning, at 2:41 a.m., at General Eisenhower's headquarters, General Jodl, the representative of the German High Command, and of Grand Admiral Dönitz, the designated head of the German state, signed the act of unconditional surrender of all German land, sea, and air forces in Europe to the Allied Expeditionary Forces and simultaneously to the Soviet High Command. Today is Victory in Europe Day.
In the middle of COVID, we decided to move house, just because life wasn't complicated enough. Move date finally arrived on the 24th of February 2021. Since we would own both houses for a while, we moved everything ourselves, using the cars and my radio-controlled B-17 aircraft trailer. The B-17 would be left in the new garage, allowing us to use the trailer for moving our belongings. Jessie and the Jeep trailer were also loaded up, and would be the first of my military vehicles to make the trip. Here's a few short clips of the trip from Washington to Durham. The following day, the Ford GPW made the trip, along with the first load of my workshop cabinets in the B-17 trailer. By D-Day 2021, COVID restrictions had eased enough for the first public event in 18 months, at Ushaw Historic House. Jessie and Hope both made the trip. From September to October 2021, I repainted the Dodge into olive drab and built a crane on the back. We finished the year on the 30th of December, with Jessie and Faith out for a photoshoot with the new scheme and crane. The first trip out for 2022 was on the 6th of April, doing the school run. It was our first full season following COVID, with 24 outings and events. At the back end of October 2022, Jessie was out for a Colors of Autumn drive, as all the leaves were turning from green to yellow to red. Jessie's last trip of the year was a local winter photoshoot, following a recent snowfall. Just a month later, on the 15th of January, Jessie was back out with Hope, for a first drive of 2023, to Fishburne Airfield for coffee. 2023 was another busy year for outings and events, and it ended by taking Jessie for a tour of local war memorials for Remembrance Weekend. Jessie was first out again, in early February 2024, closely followed by Faith the Dodge. It was just a short local trip to check the vehicles out before the season got going. 2024 was another busy year, with 21 events and outings. One of the highlights was the 1940s weekend at Elvington, where the museum brings their Halifax bomber out for the weekend. 2024 ended with all three vehicles visiting local war memorials for the Remembrance Weekend. Faith the Dodge was out on the 9th, Hope the GPW on the 10th, and Jessie on the 11th, closing the 2024 show season. I hope you've enjoyed this brief recap of 20 years of Jessie the Jeep. Don't forget to like and subscribe, thank you.